Hi there. This video is going to walk you through um, the concept of identifying unmet needs, which is incredibly important as you're working within organizational contexts. As you read this week, you are going to be reading about how organizations have needs and they design their services based on the needs that they'll be um, delivering, the services that they'll be delivering. But then the people that they serve also have needs. And sometimes there's a disconnect between the organizational needs and the needs of the clients. And so this is really where you're going to be honing in this week as you reflect on those readings, that gap between um, organizational practice and individual needs, or even theory and practice. In theory, the organization has designed a set of services that they believe is going to, they have a theory of change that they believe is going to be successful, and then their client base actually may have a completely different set of needs. That's what you'll be doing in this post, identifying an unmet need. This is also related to your first paper that you'll be submitting at the end of week 2, which is this organizational capacity assessment. But we'll get into that in a different video. So you're going to be reflecting on, again, being a social worker within an organization and be looking out for the unmet needs that may exist. So you're going to choose an organization. You can choose the same organization that you focused on for week 1, or it can be different. And the first thing I want you to do is just identify the demographics of that organization. What is their size? Who are their clients? What is the age of the organization? Are they a nonprofit or a for-profit organization? Um, and then once you've done that, start to think about the climate and the culture of that organization. So ideally, you have been to this organization in person. You would be able to reflect on how you feel when you're in that environment. If you've been fully remote with the organization that you've chosen, then I want you to reflect on how it's felt to interact with the staff and the leadership and the clients in a remote environment. And so you can adapt those questions that we're asking you to reflect in that way. Um, so, how do you feel when you walk into or interact with that organization? What is it about the climate of that organization that contributes to how you're feeling? Um, is it about the way that the organization greets you, or what they have on their walls, or what they have even in their virtual background, for example? What do you notice about how staff relate to one another, work with one another, um, and as well as the clients? Who are they being with one another? So, do you are they reflecting advocacy? Are they being kind to one another? Are they being competitive and hostile towards one another? You know, oftentimes in environments that have limited resources, or they're resource constrained environments, sometimes you can see a lot of competition and territorialism and things like that. Um, but then at the same time, with the mission that you're trying to forward and the values of that organization, you may actually see something completely different despite the amount of resources that organization has. So I think it's important to reflect on that. Who are the organization's clients and customers? What are their primary needs? So this is really where you start to identify, you separate what the organization is doing and who they are versus the clients that they're serving, and what are those clients' needs. What is what are the needs that you believe the agency is meeting really well? And then where are you seeing gaps? And when you start to identify what remains unaddressed, that is where you are going to be able to identify, you know, um, 3 unmet needs for the purposes of this exercise. Now, I'll give you an example. If you work at a homeless services organization like I did, I worked at a homeless shelter. It was an organization that also provided um, foster care services, adoption, transitional housing, and emergency shelter. And I worked in the emergency shelter area. And so let's say from the organization's point of view, what they're advocating for is additional beds because they know that the number of beds that they have is not enough. However, from the client perspective, because of the location of this homeless shelter, it's actually very difficult for clients to access the shelter and get there. They oftentimes have to, there's no bus service that goes there, and so they have to actually find a ride or pay additional via a ride sharing service to get to that organization. That is an issue that the client has that would be an unmet need by the social service organization. And so, this is just an example, but you can imagine applying for a grant or an unmet need being transportation for clients. And so then you might want to uh, um, increase the resources of that organization to be able to either provide transportation or provide funds for transportation in the form of tokens or a bus pass or cash assistance. So for your response post for this, okay, so I don't know if I mentioned the length of the post should be between 400 and 750 words. That is where you are kind of going through the type of organization, what they do, the culture and climate of the organization, and then identifying the unmet needs. Your response post to your peers should be between 100 and 250 words. And I want you to reflect on which of these unmet needs that your partner has identified could be best addressed through a program change or through an introduction of a new program. Okay, and this is helping everyone in the class think about their program proposal, which you will start to work on in week 3. I also want you to provide 2 ideas to your partner for a program change or a new program based on what they've described. And so that will add to the ideas that they've shared with you. If you have questions about this, please let me know. I'm excited about this post because it really allows for innovation. You are generating a possibility for this organization that does not exist. I do want to remind you that this is not a real grant proposal. You won't actually be submitting in this class. This is an exercise, but I do want you to take it seriously. You will be building, starting really right now as you start to think about the unmet needs. Next week, you'll start to build your organizational program proposal in 3 parts. And so this is a learning exercise. You're not going to get it perfect in the first time that you do it, which is why the way this class is structured, if you've seen by going through the materials, you will turn in a draft, you will get feedback on it from me and your peers, and then you will turn in the final. So perfection is not required for this course. I expect that you will make mistakes as you turn in your first drafts for all of these various pieces of the program proposal. So I hope that helps alleviate a little pressure. I know, especially for students that have never written a grant proposal, they get very nervous about these aspects. But just keep asking questions, and I guarantee that you'll be proud of what you produce by the end of the class, week 6. So just trust yourself. I look forward to seeing your posts, and please let me know if you have questions.